Hello friends, hi, this is Anand, and in this video we will talk about some of the key learnings, key advice, to the investors who are investing in startup for the first time, or if you have already invested, right, like in the startup. तो ये मैं वीडियो क्यों बना रहा हूँ बिकॉज आई हैव सीन दैट मेनी टाइम्स देर इज दिस कम्युनिकेशन गैप बिटवीन इन्वेस्टर्स एंड स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स एंड बाय नेचर दैट्स गोइंग टू हैपन. ये कैसे सांस बहू जैसी है चीज़ें, राइट? लाइक आई मीन इनिशियली व्हेन यू बेसिकली राइट लाइक स्टार्ट गेटिंग इन्वॉल्वड इन द स्टार्टअप as an investor, when you start interacting with the startup, you have certain expectations, and there are times, right, like I mean because of lot of things, right, like I mean things may not go well, but यहाँ पे ना मैं एक actually interesting story बताता हूँ. I mean when I was talking yesterday to my friend, he has this BI startup, so he is doing, right, like I mean all data analytics and very high in data analytics work, and his company also grew, right, almost 6x in just past 2-3 years. So amazing discussion. I mean we were having, and that's the whole point. I mean he is very, I mean relatively introvert, and you won't be able to listen to such startups, startups who are really making difference on the ground on perhaps TV or on such YouTube channels. So I really want to represent those startups, represent their thought process, and come up with something which will be meaningful, which will be helpful, and which will serve, right, like as a good base for all of us. तो मैं इसके साथ बात कर रहा था, तो मैंने 2 क्वेश्चंस पूछे. सो पहली चीज़ कि अरे यहाँ अभी लाइक बीआई में कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजीज अच्छी है, क्या है, कैसे चल रहा है, कैसे बेसिकली लाइक बिग कंपनीज आर यूजिंग एंड लिवरेजिंग बिग डेटा एंड रिलेटेड थिंग्स. एंड ही टोल्ड वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग, एंड आई मीन दिस वाज राइट लाइक इन आवर डिस्कशन. द डिस्कशन वाज अभी लाइक वी हैव गॉट प्लेथरा ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजीज, सो मेनी टेक्नोलॉजीज आर देयर. You just name it, right, like I mean we have got whole ecosystem, right, like of technologies. लेकिन उसने क्या कहा कि लाइक I mean अभी प्रॉब्लम ऐसे है कि प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट क्या है यही लोगों को पता नहीं है, राइट? लाइक आई मीन वी हैव गॉट सो मेनी रियली ग्रेट टेक्नोलॉजीज, बट देयर आर वेरी फ्यू टेक्नो फंक्शनल पीपल, राइट, लाइक वेरी फ्यू टेक्नो फंक्शनल पीपल हु अंडरस्टैंड्स रियल प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स, एंड देन दे ड्राइव, राइट, लाइक और क्रिएट दैट सॉल्यूशन. तो ये चीज़ बोली मुझे बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगी, सो आई थॉट ऑफ शेयरिंग दैट विथ यू. और उसके साथ बात करते करते, राइट, लाइक आई मीन आई ऑल्सो asked him one question. So hey friend, so where do you see yourself, right, like in 3 years, 5 years down the line? Just give me, right, like where you would be, and would you look for any exit, और क्या तुम्हें चाहिए, right, like आगे क्या करना चाहते हो तुम? He said something that resonated, right, like with most of the founders. If you like the idea, if you are basically very much involved in the idea, you don't want to get out of that idea, right, like you just want to, right, like be with it, and I mean just enjoy that idea, just stay there, right, like enjoy that process and be the part of that process and create a meaningful change. Of course the founders should also have that capability to drive and take that things ahead, but I mean considering that they are equally passionate and capable and have the ability to take that company to the next level, they should continue their journey. And interestingly, ghar aate waqt I was listening this song, right, like from Hamari Adhuri Kahani, and the line was इश्क सच्चा वही जिसको मिलती नहीं मंजिलें. So I could relate that with the startups, right? Like I mean, in startups, if you see like startup सच्चा वही जिसको मिलती नहीं मंजिलें. So you should not create something with end in mind, right? Like or exit in mind. I mean, this is like a continuous process, and we should all enjoy, right, like this continuous process as much as we can, and as much as we till the level, right, like we are helpful to the company or organization. Now coming back, right, like to the pointers to the investors. I mean, investors should also understand that like startups, right, like when they are working, they basically are creating something, right, like in a long run, and perhaps you may not be able to see some things, right, like in just few days, months or weeks. So basically you have to keep that, right, like mindset as well. So couple of things, right, like that I felt, so I'll go one by one. First is communicate openly and frequently. So what has happened, I've seen that many people just put money and they say that like look, I mean just do whatever you want to do, and which is also good, right, like at times because they're giving free hand to the founders. But what I think is that I mean you should talk to them, try to understand, because as you would know, right, like startups in general by nature, founders, and depending on the type of the personality, I mean they're going through so many things, right, like, and they are insanely optimistic, right, like where they're thinking of something really great would happen, this would come, that would come, and most of the times what happens, they come up, right, like with some idea and create something. When the rubber meets the road, what I have seen that the road is, right, like I mean full of potholes, गड्ढे होते हैं, राइट, लाइक वहाँ पे कीचड़ होती है, राइट, लाइक आई मीन रोड्स आर नॉट वेरी स्मूथ एट ऑल. तो ये सब challenges, right, like I mean startups founders, right, like they're going through it. So talk to them, right, go, okay, right, like you're doing a great thing, I mean is there anything that I can be of help, understand, right, like what they are going through, try to like connect the dots, right, like try to see if you can actually have, right, like any advice that you can provide to them, but just keep that communication flow continuously. Then second is your support and resources. So what I mean by that is, many times when you are investing in a startup, try to find out if there is any overlap, right, like with your existing skills or resources. So how, like why it is important, because when you are actually investing in the startup, and if you are also helping that startup in some or the other way, you are, right, like in constant touch with that startup. So I mean my advice to the investors is to open up your connections. Try, right, like I mean perhaps one connection per month, or one connection per quarter, or give, right, like some advice specifically that like you have learnt about that the specific space that founder is working on or that startup is solving the problem about. This will be a great help to specifically founders. Now the third very important part is building trust, and I have seen, right, like I mean this is something little bit challenging, and this has happened with me also in the past. And what happens is many times you're doing things the way you want to do, and they should see that like you are genuine, you are trying to create something, but many times you are not able to communicate with them continuously, right, like so that may create, right, like some gaps in the trust. So I mean if you come across similar situation, I mean try to talk to them, try to understand if the founder is really hardworking, if he's really creating something, right, like by his own, understand, right, like his position, and create that trust. And of course this will happen from the founder side as well. This is not only from the investor side, I mean it has to be from both sides, and both sides needs to be really genuine. But what I've seen, that I also faced like one or two times like similar things, but I had a very open conversation. I spoke with them, I tried to understand, right, like their hesitance, and I mean after all, if you're working very hard, if you're genuine, if your intentions are right, the trust, right, like will just grow. So ensure that like you are also creating, right, like that aspect as well. Now the fourth very important part is respect founders vision, right. I mean as you would know, right, as we discussed earlier, founders are going through very tough time. So let them think about, right, like their vision. I mean of course give guidance, but अगर वो basically कुछ कह रहे हैं, नहीं मैं ऐसे ही सोचने वाला हूँ, ऐसे ही करने वाला हूँ, तो don't feel bad. I mean because they are running the show, they are in and out over there, they are continuously working over there. You as an investor, of course, like you are concerned about your money, but I mean तुमने जब invest किया है तो तुमने founder में भी invest किया है, ये सोच लो. So if they are having different opinion, I mean please respect that. I mean let them actually have their own opinion as well. Now the fifth very important part, right, like that I would like to talk is be patient, because ये स्टार्टअप, राइट, लाइक ये कुछ ऐसे मैंने ऐसे कहा 1 दिन 5 दिन couple of weeks couple of months की नहीं है चीज, राइट, लाइक आई मीन इट मे टेक years, because you need to find out, right, like what is the product market fit. Many times what has happened with me, जब भी मुझे ऐसे लगा है कि okay मुझे I've got the product market fit, most of the times if not all, it's not product market fit, right, like I mean as you start, right, like making money, you start understanding the challenges, and it's not something where you will start automatically making and generating a lot of revenue, and this is something exactly that client or the market is looking for. So be patient, give them, right, like I mean again like give them advice, try to see what you can do to help, right, like the situation to or speed up the process of growth of this startup. So be patient. These are, right, like some of the advices. Of course there would be a lot of other advices as well. So if you think that like you have any other additional pointers, please feel free to put them in comment. I hope you like this video, and if you like, please subscribe and share this with your friends and other startup founders and angel investors as well. Thank you. Bye.